Hello, fable fanciers. Today we have a fancy fable. At least it's about a fancy bird. Today's fable is the peacock. And we're using a different book this time. This is my third book of fables. It's The Aesop for Children with pictures by Milo Winter, and it's published by Rand McNally Press. Now, these fables were actually written for this book back in 1919. The book isn't that old. It's since been republished. But the wording of the fables may sound a little old-fashioned and stilted, which I think is kind of fun to hear what people would have sounded like, or at least what they would have read back a long time ago. So some of the terms we might not be familiar with today. It mentions Juno. In a previous fable, we had a god. Juno is a female god, and she grants favors sometimes. Also in the story, we have the word train. It mentions the peacock has a train, and that doesn't mean he has a locomotive. It's not like choo-choo. This is a train like a bride might wear. A bride might have a long veil that hangs down to the ground. That's a train. It's something long that kind of goes behind you. So let's get into today's fable. And I like this one primarily because of the picture. Big surprise. So here we go. Let's get it set up. Let's talk about our picture here. There we go. I see down at the bottom, there's a bucket down there, and it's got two little chicks standing on it. There's our beautiful peacock over here, and we have a pheasant and a rooster, and here's a duck. All right, so let's read our fable called simply The Peacock. The peacock, they say, did not at first have the beautiful feathers in which he now takes so much pride. These Juno, whose favorite he was, granted to him one day, when he begged her for a train of feathers to distinguish him from the other birds. Then, decked in his finery, gleaming with emerald, gold, purple, and azure, he strutted proudly among the birds. All regarded him with envy. Even the most beautiful pheasant could see that his beauty was surpassed. Presently the peacock saw an eagle soaring high up in the blue sky and felt a desire to fly, as he had been accustomed to do. Lifting his wings, he tried to rise from the ground, but the weight of his magnificent train held him down. Instead of flying up to greet the first rays of the morning sun, or to bathe in the rosy light among the floating clouds at sunset, he would have to walk the ground more encumbered and oppressed than any common barnyard fowl. And our moral is, do not sacrifice your freedom for pomp and show. Pomp and show, that sounds very old-fashioned. And did you catch the word azure? You may not hear that word very often. It's a word for blue. This is probably the kind of blue that azure is. A very pretty kind of blue. So it's a very fancy moral to our fable, but mainly it means, to me anyway, that don't get so hung up on material things you forget that a lot of life is about experiences. That being said, when I was a teenager, my parents actually had peacocks, which is very cool. And let me tell you, peacocks can fly. They don't fly like an eagle. They don't go soar around, but they can fly up and they can fly from tree to tree. So peacocks can fly. And once a year, peacocks molt, which means they lose all those fancy feathers. The feathers just come out. It doesn't hurt them, and you can pick them up and keep the beautiful feathers off them. And when they molt, they can fly, and they don't have that big train anymore. So for part of the year, they don't have that big fancy train, and they are beautiful birds. So I hope you enjoyed our story today. I'll show you that picture once more, because it's just such a pretty picture. The peacock. Thanks so much for joining me.